All right, looks like I'm live. Let me double check here. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. It is 10:01, so again, we'll get started. Anybody catching up can watch the recording later. So really today is Listing Objections Bootcamp. So this is the third part in the series for the Momentum Listing Training. So listing conversion we did a couple weeks ago. It's here on the page if you want to go see it, or go to my Vimeo channel, vimeo.com/Jeffrey Rising. I'll put it in the comments here. So really, listing conversion, pricing bootcamp, we did the 7-step pricing strategy last week, and today we're talking about listing objections. So I know I mentioned last week, well, if you do the pricing bootcamp and the listing conversion right, letting a seller self-discover how working with you is going to be a great idea, and I'll self-discover their own price, and there should be no objections by the time you get to the end. So, but there's always the occasion to where you don't have full agreement going in for those first two phases, and then we do have some objections at the end. So this is pretty script heavy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the dialogues here at the end. We'll touch on the concept of it, because remember, don't memorize the dialogue and scripts word for word. You want to internalize the concept of what you're trying to say, put it in your own words. So let's get started. Okay, so we're always on a quest to move away from the typical agent. Remember, if we go to a listing appointment and we show up with a 40-page CMA like the two agents before us did, they see no difference between the three agents they interviewed. They're going to pick prices. The price and the commission is the deciding factor, right? If they think we're all the same, who's going to give me the lowest commission is all they're worried about. So we need to prove that we're different by going through these steps. So really, we're going to rise above average here. Let me pause this real quick. What's going on with my feed? We're going to rise above average. So hold on, let me back up. There's no reason you should see my full slide here. Technological problems, right? Give me 1 minute here to work out my technical difficulties. Let me try one thing real quick. Apparently I did something different from what I did last week, so let me try this. And again, that's not what I want. Okay. All right, bear with me, folks. Perfect. Okay. So rise above average. So really, we want to set ourselves apart from the typical agent by doing something different than showing up with a CMA like everybody else did. So really, this class makes for the following 4 assumptions. You want to substantially increase your listing inventory. You want to master effective, proven dialogue. And you want to differentiate yourself from the typical agent. And number 4, you want to study and practice and maximize your production. Remember, study, practice, take action, and reinforce that behavior, so SPAR. Truth, typical agents work on overcoming objections. Successful consultants work on preventing objections. Remember, the goal is to prevent any objections, like we learned in listing conversion. If we help them self-discover the price and self-discover how a working relationship with us will be a win-win, then there are no objections by the time you get to that phase. Before we get started, question, what's the best way to prevent an objection? The answer, work on improving your conversational weaknesses. Remember, we're having a listing conversation, not a listing presentation. So how do we work on improving? We spar, study, practice, take action, and reinforce the behavior by going out there and doing it. Most objections occur because of a weakness in your conversation and presentation at a listing appointment or over the phone. The worst thing, we'll get to some of the phone scripts later, because we always get floor calls or we get people, referrals calling us and say, well, what's your commission rate? That's the first and only question they ask. So we know that we're up against a challenge when someone starts out the conversation with, what's your commission rate? The worst thing, we'll get to some of the phone scripts later. So how many hours did you spar last week, and with specific intent to get better? For a lot of agents, that's 0. We need to work with our co-workers in our office, study and practice with a family member, your spouse, partner, whoever it is. If we master these dialogues one-on-one by studying and practicing, we sound polished and ready to go, and we sound more professional when we do meet with a client. So there are agents out there who are great. There are agents out there who are good. There are agents out there that do just enough to get by. If you want to be great, you have to study and practice. People will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. That's one of the core beliefs of the Momentum program. Most realtors want dialogue that cures problems that they have created. So what does that mean? What do you mean they created the problem? It's by being unprepared. Doing a CMA presentation just leads up to more questions. When we do the pricing bootcamp strategy, the 7-step pricing strategy, we lead them down a path to self-discover their own price entry point. There's no objections if they pick their own price, right? Most realtors create the pricing problem by just throwing a bunch of data in front of them. Hey, I think we should list your house at $199 with 0 explanation why, except a couple of bar graphs in front of them. So you created that problem by not letting the seller pick the price entry point by providing the data for them. By you telling them the price, that automatically causes a problem for the seller. A smarter approach is to internalize a system that prevents common problems from ever occurring. That system is the 7-step pricing strategy and the listing conversion momentum program. To prevent listing objections, questions, and concerns, you must first, number 1, allow the seller to self-discover. Be a leader, lead them down the path of self-discovery. Move beyond opinion. Be a tangible, be real with them. Become a strategist, be logical. We're going to have the data. We're presenting our pricing tools to them so they can self-discover the price. Track your results. How many listing appointments do I go on that I don't get? How many listings do I get that don't close? How many listings do I get that expire? All those things, what you track improves, so you need to track it in order so most agents have no idea. You ask the typical agent, how many listing appointments did you go on last year? They might be able to give you a ballpark. Well, how many of those did you get? Well, I don't know, maybe 70%, 80%, 50%, who knows what it is. Most people don't know those numbers, so if you start tracking those numbers, just use a simple Google spreadsheet, whatever you want to use. How many listing appointments do you go on? How many listings do you take, and how many of them close versus expire? Those are some great numbers to track. If you start out and you find out that I'm only getting 50% of the listings that go on. Okay, what do I need to improve? Because you need to improve something, because you should get way more than half of the listing appointments that you go on. Improve your results, and then cause your results. Be proactive. Number 6, if you track it and you know what to do with it, then you can make change happen. Sellers hire and refer realtors who possess proven systems that guarantee results. Remember, you're setting yourself apart from the typical agent when you do these strategies. You do the 7-step pricing strategy, so they're going to realize that you're different. You're going to win the listing. You're going to close the listing, and they're going to say, "Wow, that was such a different experience from the last time I worked with an agent. I'm going to refer you to other people because that was just awesome. I can't believe that it worked out so well. It was an enjoyable experience." Becoming professionally attractive. Sellers work with those that they know, like, and trust. We hear that all the time. People work with people they know, like, and trust. We do it in our business We work with lenders that we know, like, and trust. We work with home inspectors that we know, like, and trust. Our clients work with us because they know us, they like us, and they trust us. So above all else, sellers are attracted to professionals they believe can get results. Part of your goal is to demonstrate that you possess the knowledge, skills, and dispositions needed to get the job get the job done. We're going to talk about dispositions here in a second. So what does that mean? Most realtors mistakenly ignore creating and improving their dispositions, which are necessary components of eliminating objections. So how are you presenting yourself when you walk into a listing appointment? Are you confident or are you timid? Are you a likable person, or does home sellers find you incompatible to work with? Are you approachable or are you withdrawn? Are you open to suggestion or close to suggestion? Being close to suggestion would be showing up with a CMA and telling them what price you think they should list it at, and they come back with an objection, and you're not willing to move or talk about it or to work through that. A good disposition to have would be being logical. Are you logical or unreasonable? And are you honest or are you misleading? So you want to be everything in the left column and stop doing things in the right column. When you walk into a listing appointment and you're unsure of yourself, you're timid, you're not sure, you're unorganized, you're not going to win that listing. So how do you boost, how do you change your disposition and make these things better? By practicing these dialogues with someone else. So you get better at it and you sound more professional and you get more confident. Truth. Objections disappear in direct proportion to the seller's confidence in you and your abilities. The more that they trust you, the more they're confident in that you know what you're talking about, the less likely there are to be any objections. This is why direct referrals are the best. If you ever got a referral from a past client or a family member, it's great because someone referred them. Most of the time, they're not even interviewing other agents because they already trust you. Like, hey, my cousin Billy said you were awesome. I trust Billy, so I trust you. So referrals are best. That's a lot of agents. You'd be surprised if you read the numbers. Only 20% of top producing agents ever ask for referrals from their past clients. It's a really, really low number. So ask for referrals from past clients because most of the time they're not even interviewing anybody else. You still need to go through this process with them and help them self-discover the price entry point. But if they're not interviewing other people, you've already got trust out of the way. So now they just need to know you and like you because they already trust you. Pricing objections. So pricing homes is not an exact science. It's one of the core beliefs for the Momentum program. Pricing objections are by far the most common form of listing objection. Everybody thinks their house is more than the other houses in the neighborhood. Everybody thinks their house is the best house in the neighborhood. So since the seller's perception is indeed their reality, that's really they really truly believe that. So you must keep 5 rules in mind when addressing pricing objections, questions, and concerns. So again, we're going to go through some of the dialogues. I'll touch on some of the highlights in the next few pages. So again, we're focusing on learning and internalizing the dialogue so you don't look like a deer in headlights when they bring up a pricing objection or commission objection. Practice with someone in your office so the first time you're handling that objection is not in front of a client, because if that's the first time you handle that objection, you're not going to win the listing and you just wasted an hour of your time or 2 hours of your time. So again, when they do bring up pricing objections, assuming it did not all go well during the 7-step pricing strategies, so stay curious, keep asking questions. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why do you feel that your house is better than the house that sold 2 doors down? Just ask questions. Stay away from arrogance. Well, I've been selling houses for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Don't be arrogant, right? That's the quickest way to get kicked out of the house. Stay calm. Keep your emotions out of it. You put a lot of work into getting ready for this appointment. You put a lot of work into putting your spreadsheets together, your 7-step pricing strategy, and they're going to completely ignore it and not take your suggestion on price. So of course it's easy to get emotional and get mad. Like, man, I put a lot of work into this and they don't even believe me. How did that happen? So again, stay calm, keep your emotions out of it. Stay logical, neutralize their emotions. Selling a house, it's their baby. Maybe they've been there 10 years, maybe they've been there 20 years, maybe they've been there 30 years. They're very emotional, so you need to stay logical. And stay proactive. Know your walkaway price. Remember, nobody wins if we take an overpriced listing. The house doesn't sell, you don't get paid, and they're mad and they're bad mouthing you to other people. Man, I had my house listed with Jeff for 6 months. We had a ton of showings and he never sold it. That place is terrible. Never list with them. So again, know your walkaway price. If they're not willing to be reasonable and list within the range of what you suggest, then walk away. Next, there's plenty. Remember, we live in a world of abundance. There's a lot of business out there. We don't need to stop. We don't need to waste our time taking overpriced listings. Pricing objections. Remember, justification equals leverage. The pricing game is all about justification. Thus, you should be willing to list the home at the highest justifiable price congruent to the needs of the seller. Talk is cheap. Taking overpriced listings communicates a dangerous message that you're willing to just take any listing. Hey, I think we can get this unrealistic price. So even if you do work them down in price. So say, for example, they list for, you say 180,000, they say they want to list for 200. Okay, fine. You give in. You list the house for 200, knowing that, hey, they'll reduce it in 30 days if it doesn't sell. Even if you end up getting them down to 180 at some point and it sells, subconsciously they're thinking, man, I lost $20,000. Because in their mind, you told them, yes, I can get $200,000 because you said I'll list it for $200,000. Now when it finally sells for the price that you told them, all that they hear is we lost $20,000. They don't hear that, hey, I told you it was going to sell for 180. Guess what? It sold for 180. So it's a win-lose. Like you got paid and it finally sold, but you're never getting referrals from that person. They're telling people that you're terrible. They're telling people that you sold it for 10% under the list price when they thought they should have got $200,000. So you send the wrong message when you take an overpriced listing because you're telling them, hey, you know what? Sure, we'll list it for 200. I can get 200. That's all they hear. So don't do it. Still, remember, know your walkaway price. Here's a list of key beliefs that you must possess as a pricing specialist. Again, we're not going to go through all these. If you're watching this and you do not have a copy of this PDF, please message me here on the page and I will email it to you. Remember, pricing homes is not an exact science. If 3 different realtors go to a listing appointment, how many different prices are the sellers going to hear? They're going to hear 3 different prices. How many times have you had an appraisal that didn't turn out good, so you had a second appraisal and it's way off? The price is just one person's opinion, right? So 3 different agents, 3 different prices, 3 different appraisers, 3 different prices. Pricing homes is not an exact science. It's not just price per square foot, right? It's not just adding in, hey, I'm going to add in $10,000 because this has a new kitchen. It's not an exact science. Every house is different. Homes sell for 2 reasons, price and exposure. We need to be priced right, and we need to do our job marketing the property right. Buyers determine the value based on their past buying situation, based on closed comps, right? The price should never exceed value. That's you using the seller's needs to justify the price. Well, hey, you know what? I really need to make $50,000 on this so I can buy my next house. Well, the buyer doesn't care how much you need to make. The buyer's going to pay what it's worth. And of course, competition determines the price entry point. We need to know what the active comps are in the neighborhood so we can enter the market at a price that's attractive to the people that have already seen those other homes. Pricing homes is neighborhood and area specific. You could have one neighborhood in a city and another neighborhood in a city 2 blocks away with wildly different price ranges. So remember, be very careful when you're working in certain neighborhoods to use comps only from that neighborhood. And of course, people will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. You need to do your job, providing the data, being logical, and showing them what, help them down that path of self-discovery to find that price entry point. And of course, it's unacceptable to leave the seller's money on the table. So how do you leave the seller's money on the table? Well, one way to do that is by overpricing it, because we all know that if we overprice it, what gets put in motion stays in motion, right? When we start going down, it keeps going down. You said 180, they said we want to list at 200. It ends up selling for 170 because price reduction. Buyers in the market say, what's wrong with this house? They keep dropping the price. And then all of a sudden, and now it sells for less than you told them. So that's leaving the seller's money on the table when you overprice a listing. The pricing game is all about justification. So based on all the information available, at what price do you think we should enter the market? Remember, we're doing the 7-step pricing strategy: sold comps, expired comps, active comps. The wish list, active comps, the rejected properties, the expired comps, and then the sold comps. Here's what buyers said that they're willing to pay for a home like yours. So here's some of the dialogue, what the seller would say and what you would say. So after looking at the research we've covered together today, would you share with me how you arrive at that price? Because again, they want an unrealistic price. Ask for their justification. You've justified your list price through the data, but now they want to be unreasonable and list at a different price. So then again, listen to their response. Remember, stay curious, ask questions, listen to their response, and ask appropriate follow-up questions if needed. We could take that approach. However, in doing so, your desire to move in 30 days will not be satisfied. So remember, we need to always go back to that hot button issue. What's their hot button issue? What's their real number one urgency for selling? Got a new job. I need to be in my new place in 2 months so the kids can get registered for school in the new city we're moving to. All right, great. I understand you feel that way about the price, but if we overprice it, you can expect to be on the market for 3 or 4 months before we get an offer, and you're not going to meet your goal of moving in 30 to 60 days. So to justify your point, re-examine one or all of your pricing tools while saying, well, we must remember that the pricing game is all about justification. We need to justify our list price when a buyer makes an offer. So again, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Let's start studying and practicing these with someone in your office, because there is no growth without discomfort. You need to step out of your comfort zone and get used to practicing these so you sound professional and you sound polished when you do go on a listing appointment. Initial pricing. So first of all, allowing the sellers to self-discover using the 7-step pricing strategy virtually eliminates the above objection. If we did a really good job at the 7-step pricing strategy, 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick the price that you were hoping that they were going to pick, right? So, but there's always the person that's, depending on how much emotion is involved, if you get someone that's been in their house 30 years, they've updated it several times over the time, it's been their baby that long, you're going to get people that still don't follow what you're saying. So you still need to be able to handle the objections if and when they do come up. So remember, if the seller wants the price over fair market value, they are mistakenly using their needs as justification, and buyers do not care about seller needs. Well, I really need to make $50,000 so I can put it down on my next house. Guess what? The buyer doesn't care. The buyer's going to pay what fair market value is. They're not interested in putting extra money in your pocket just so you can go buy another house. The buyer wants to pay what the house is worth. The seller unrealistically wants to set or use a benchmark price. Per my research, the only thing that your home has in common with those homes are this. So as you can see, these homes possess blank, which appear to be driving their value. Granite countertops, updated kitchens, new roofs, new HVAC. Especially if you're in a neighborhood that has houses built like the 60s to 80s. A lot of those homes are still going to be 1960 to 1980, but there are going to be some of those homes that have new HVAC, new roofs, new windows, new kitchens, new baths in the last 5 or 10 years. So that's going to be that's your high range of homes, and you're in your mid range of homes. So we need to refer back to our 7-step pricing strategy spreadsheet that says high range, mid range, low range, and so which range do you feel that your house is in based on the amenities that you have to offer versus the amenities that these other homes have to offer. The seller believes their home is worth more because of a specific amenity. Again, granite countertops, finished basement, etc. Per my research, that amenity is fairly common in this neighborhood and alone does not justify more value. Again, we're going to refer back to our 7-step pricing strategy sheets: high range, mid range, low range. Everything in the high range, mid range, whatever you're wanting them to be in, all the homes in the mid range have finished basements like yours do. All the homes in the mid-range have granite countertops like yours do. So again, your finished basement or your granite countertops does not justify a higher sales price because these homes have the same amenities. Seller wants to list above the commission. Hey, we can list high, however, that puts us at the high end of the competition. So again, we're going to use our active spreadsheet. Where should we enter the market at to be competitive with the homes that are currently on the market? At the high end of the price range, you can expect to remain active for 3 or 4 months, based on my data here. So per your timing need, it's not really acceptable. Do you agree? What is their hot button issue? Is it moving in 30 days? Is it moving in 60 days? We can price it at the high range, but from what we see here from our expired sheet, some of these homes have been on the market for 30 to 90 days, and you're not going to meet your goal of moving in time. The seller wants to completely disregard the competition. So everybody thinks their house is the best one in the neighborhood, right? We could do that, but looking at our competition, there appears to be months of inventory available. Shouldn't we position ourselves to sell within your desired time frame? You said your number one goal here was to get an offer within 30 days. Is that still your number one goal? Well, yes, it is. Okay, great. So we really can't price at the high end of that range because you see these homes that are already at the high end. They've been on the market 60 days and they don't have offers yet. So if you want to have an offer in 30 days, we need to be right here. Would you agree? Always gain agreement and buy-in. Would you agree? Finish that sentence with, would you agree, or do you agree? Does that sound good to you? Whatever you want to say, get buy-in at the end by asking a question. Per the active summary support pages, these homes seem to have the same features and amenities as yours, so why would a buyer pay more for your home when they all have the same amenities? So this is for expired listings that you're going on. My previous agent told me it was the wrong time of year. That's always a big cop-out, right? For an agent that gets a listing and it doesn't sell, they find anything to blame it on other than themselves. They don't want to admit that they overpriced the house. They don't want to admit that they suck at marketing. So what is their go-to? The market, it wasn't at the right time of year. It was winter, it was summer, it was too hot, it was too cold. There's always a way to spin that information, right? And people do it all the time. So this is what I tell people. I've told this to people for years because the market proves it. Per my research, homes sell throughout the year. You can even refer back to your spreadsheets. Like, look, this one sold in February, this one sold in January, this one sold a week after Christmas, whatever. Per my research, homes sell all year long. Your previous agent was simply misinformed. As you can see, homes priced appropriately sell throughout the year. Do you need to adjust your price a little bit based on the time of year? Maybe, depending on the active competition. But again, we live in, I don't know what market you're in, but we live in Southeast Michigan, and it snows, and people are used to snow, and very rarely do you get the buyer that says, well, I don't want to move in the winter. Moving takes 2 days, you're going to not buy a house because there's a couple inches of snow on the ground. Most people don't care. So homes do sell all year long. Do you need to adjust the price based on the active competition at the time? Of course you do. You have to do the same thing in the middle of the summer. If there's a lot of homes on the market, you need to be more attractive on your list price. We all have heard this before, right? Seller wants to start high because guess what? We can always calm down, right? But remember the core belief, what gets put in motion stays in motion. Once you start going down, it keeps going down. We could price the home high. However, before making that decision, let's take a look at people who have tried that approach in this neighborhood and see if there are any negative consequences. This is where you're going to pull out your expired. These are the homes that were rejected by home buyers. Remember, rejected. Nobody likes to be rejected. You got to use that word. As you can see, when reducing price, you run the risk of leaving blank dollars on the table and staying on the market for 90 days longer. So you can combine this along with your sold sheet. But you'll have to go back in and adjust your spreadsheet to show the original list price. Make sure so you need to have that data handy and available when they bring this objection up. If they want to start high and work their way down, here's some homes that started where you want to start. They ended up selling for this, but I already told you I think you can sell for this. So this is great if we'll use the $200,000 example again. You said you think it's worth 180. They want to list at 200. If you can show them a comp that sold at 170 that started at 200, that's gold. Like you win. You win the conversation at that point because you proved them wrong, and you're not going to gloat about it. But you say, hey, here's the data. Here's a house like yours that started out at 200. It ended up selling for 170. I really feel if we price it at 180, 182, we're going to sell it at 180 or 182. Are you willing to leave $10,000 on the table just as a wish price? For those stubborn sellers, they get one every now and then, right? Bottom line dialogue. Again, knowing what your walkaway price is going to be. You see, finding an appropriate price for your home is not an abstract philosophy. We have the opportunity to know and understand what buyers in your area are doing. Point to the pricing tools. Go refer back to your spreadsheets. We know what buyers are paying for houses. We know what homes were rejected by buyers in the market, and we know what the active competition is right now. So use those summary pages. In which category would you like to be? Sold, rejected, or still on the market in 3 months? Well, I want to be sold. Of course, I want to be sold. Great. And the absolute highest I would feel comfortable listing your home for is $188,000. Is that agreeable to you? Hopefully they say yes, right? That's the goal we're going for right here, right? So again, know your walkaway price. We're not taking a $200,000 listing if you told them the highest you're willing to go is 188. That's a big difference. If they say yes, yay. Verify the agreed upon price will still satisfy their needs. You do a net sheet. And again, hey, does this still work for you? And of course, handling the next objection, how will you feel if the home sells tomorrow? And we'll get to that in a couple pages. If no, which is rare, Most people are reasonable if you can show them the data. People follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. If you have the information and you're setting yourself apart from the competition by doing something different besides a long, boring CMA that they don't understand, you can usually get buy-in from the home seller. So what if in the rare occurrence they say no? You know what? Do you remember back at the beginning of our conversation when I told you I'm looking to create a win-win relationship here? I think we may have violated that agenda. And I hate to say that to people because I really want to help you, but if I were to take your listing at this price, I would consider that a win-lose relationship. And remember, with me, it's win-win or no deal. And when I say win-lose, I mean listing your property at a higher price would be a win for me and a lose for you. Does that make sense? Of course it doesn't. Why would that be a lose for them if you're going to list higher? Well, I would take the listing in market and promote it, which would definitely generate buyers interested in your home. I'm going to get buyer leads off of it. I would show them the home, and when buyers discover that your home is overpriced, I would have no other choice but to show them and sell them another home. So a big one for me because I made money. I mean, I got a buyer lead off of your listing, but they bought something else because you were overpriced. And a big lose for you because because none of your needs have been satisfied, and you're showing your homes to people who aren't going to buy it. You're wasting your time. You're getting your house ready for showings. You're leaving the house for showings. Again, how important are these needs to you? Remember, what's their hot button? Your time, money. Let's get focus sheet in front of them again about what their number one goal was. So how important are these needs to you? And they're going to say, well, they're very important. Of course, I would really need to have an offer in 30 days. Okay, so how about we ensure a win-win relationship by from the start by pricing the home at a price we know we can justify. Remember, it's all about justification to the buyer as well, and the appraiser when it gets to that point. So if they say yes, verify the list price will satisfy their pricing and timing needs. The big house, small house, this is more of a visual. This message delivers when sellers want to list in the wrong range or want to start high and then come down. So again, remember we have our three ranges on our 7-step pricing spreadsheet: low range, mid-range, high range. So you're going to draw two houses. You're going to draw a mid-sized house, and you're going to draw a really big house on a whiteboard or a piece of paper or whatever. And you're going to tell them, hey, you want to list in this range where this big house is, but really the amenities tell us your house is here. So if buyers in the market can afford this big house that has all these amenities, why would they pay the same price for yours when yours is smaller? Yours doesn't have granite countertops. Yours doesn't have finished basement. Whatever the difference is, you need to constantly remind them, you're in the mid range. This is in the high range. Your house is not in the high range. So why would buyers pay the same price for your house as they would pay for a bigger house with more square footage? So of course, people think their house is worth more than you think it's worth sometimes. So my home is better than the other's priced at $250,000. You know what? I appreciate that, and I agree. Your home is in great shape. However, it's been my experience that if we price the home at $275,000, here's what will happen. Draw the big house, draw the small house. Buyers who are ready, willing, and able to pay $275,000 for a home will be the ones viewing your home, right? So you priced it at $275,000. People approved for $275,000 are going to see your house. When they discover they can get more bang for their buck by looking at the big house, remember, draw a picture, they will gravitate towards the other homes. If they got a 1,500 square foot home and then there's a 2,000 square foot home priced the same in the same neighborhood, which do you think the buyer is going to buy? So likewise, buyers who are ready, willing, and able to buy your home will probably never see it because you're overpriced. There's people that are approved to $250,000 aren't going to go look at your listing because it's priced out of the range. Most people don't look at homes above their price range. Most agents don't let their buyers look at homes above their price range, right, if you're doing your job. So they will probably never see your home because it will not appear in their search when they're searching for homes online. So realtors typically don't search $25,000 over a buyer's price ceiling. Therefore, shouldn't we choose a price we can justify so people who are ready, willing, and able to buy it will see it? We want to be priced at the people that are able to buy your house. So if we say, $250,000 buyers can buy your house, then we need to be priced at $250,000. We want to list for $275,000 for a few weeks and then come down. I appreciate that. However, the first 30 days on the market are the most crucial time frames. So you see, it's been my experience. Remember, just keep referring back to some of these key tenets of these dialogues. You need to keep referring back to your experience. Remember, you're the one that has the real estate license. You're the one that sold 100 homes or 500 homes or how many, we're not going to tell them that, but you can just say, hey, it's been my experience. And of course, if they ask, well, what is your experience? You can tell them, but whatever. It's been my experience that if we start at 275, here's what's likely to happen. In the first few weeks, you'll generate a lot of showings. However, the buyers will be viewing the home will be the buyers who are able to pay 275. So they're also going to look at other homes that are listed for 275. During that process, they will discover they can get more bang for their buck looking at these other homes. And as a result, they'll buy a larger home or a home with more upgrades. During the same crucial weeks, there will be buyers who are ready, willing, and able to buy your home, but will probably never see it in their home search because they are only approved at $250,000 and they're going to search for up to $250,000. And most people don't search $25,000 over their budget. We will also lose these buyers forever because they will either buy another home or wait to hear from their agent, who typically only search new listings and not price updates. So doesn't it make more sense to select a price we can justify so people who are ready, willing, and able to buy it will see it? I mean, can we really afford to miss majority of the qualified buyers for your home when their interest is at a peak level? So keep reminding, the first 30 days are so important. And what gets put in motion stays in motion. Once you start going down, you keep going down. Other pricing challenges. We still think our home is better and have an unexplained need to price it $25,000 over market value. They're not going to say exactly that. They're not going to admit they have an unexplained need. But okay, you know what? We could list your house $25,000 over market value, but in doing so, let me define for you who would become our new target market. So a cash buyer. We need to find a cash buyer that's not going to ask for an appraisal. They're going to be willing and able to pay $25,000 over list price just to satisfy your needs so you can buy your next house. Not likely to happen. People who have a need to pay $25,000 over market value. So how many of these buyers do you think exist? Well, probably zero, right? These days, a lot of cash buyers are getting smarter and they still want to get an appraisal done because they want to make sure they're still paying fair market value. It doesn't matter if they're paying cash. It doesn't mean they're going to overpay. So remember that. Cash buyer doesn't mean dumb overpaying buyer. They still sometimes want to get an appraisal done. So my research shows me that listing your house $25,000 over market value will result in these needs not being met. Remember, refer back to their sheet. What did they say was the number one reason they want to sell? What was the number one thing they want to get out of the sale? How are things going to feel if getting an offer and moving within 30 to 60 days is not satisfied? Well, that's going to be terrible because then my kids aren't going to start school on time. We're not going to move on time. I'm going to have to tell my new employer in Traverse City that I can't start on time, or I have to go live in an apartment so I can start my job and then wait for my family to come up. It's going to be horrible. There's going to be a lot of moving parts there. We just really need to get an offer in 30 days. All right. Then shouldn't we do everything within our control to make sure that doesn't happen? Of course. So remember, talk about these. What's their number one reason? What do they say is the reason they want to sell within 30 days or whatever their issue is? But we've done all this updating in the last year. Great, you painted a living room. Awesome. I appreciate that. But in the buyer's eyes, all this means that you simply brought the home up to selling standards. If you have a 1950s ranch and you finally put in a new kitchen versus the 1950s kitchen because everything else in your neighborhood has new kitchens, well, you've brought it up to current selling standards. You didn't do any kind of amazing update. You brought it up to what the home buyer in the market expects when they go out and look at houses. If you were a buyer and two similar homes were for sale, one for a higher price and one for a lower price, which would you buy? All things being equal. Same house, just different prices. Well, of course, would buy the one that's the lower price. Well, wouldn't you agree most buyers would feel like you? Well, I guess so. Is that going to be an issue? Well, yes. Okay, you go through the win-lose dialogue again. Hey, it's going to be a win for me because I'm going to get buyer leads. It's going to be a lose for you because you're not going to sell the house and you're going to show it to people, and it's going to be very frustrating for you. Remember, upgrades were taken into consideration when analyzing property condition. Remember the three: high range, mid range, low range on your 7-step pricing strategy. You have these updates the same as everything else in the mid range. The things in the high range have these things you don't have. The things in the low range are the original 1950s kitchens that you used to be. Again, the justification for the seller. The buyers don't care about the seller's needs. We have to have $25,000 to buy another home. That's awesome, but guess what? The buyer doesn't care. They're not. Would you be willing to pay $25,000 more for a house just to put more money in the seller's pocket, even though it's above market value? Well, I guess not. Okay, well, neither is a buyer for your home. Joe said he would list my home above the market. Of course he did. Great. How did Joe justify his price? Did he share his numbers with you? Do you have a copy? Remember, if they're interviewing multiple agents, the people before you just shoved a big, long, complicated CMA in front of them and told them what price they should list it for. They didn't justify the price at all. They just, they're just listening to what the sellers. So, hey, did Joe share his numbers? Do you have a copy? I'd love to look at it. Go ahead and that way you can have some data to answer those objections. Do you think what buyers have done in past buying situations is important? Well, yeah, of course. I need to know what have other people paid for, in the neighborhood. Do you think Joe was only telling you what he thought you wanted to hear? Be real with them. Be real with them. Because there's people out there that will tell the seller whatever they want to hear just to get the listing. We know it happens every day, all day. So again, just be real with them. Do you think he's just telling you what you want to hear so he can get a listing to stick a sign in the yard? Maybe. Please understand I'm okay with listing the home at $275,000 if we can justify $275,000. Otherwise, I would consider this a win-lose relationship. And with me, it's win-win or no deal. When I say win-lose, it would be a win for either Joe or me and a lose for you, because we're going to get a bunch of buyer leads off your house and we're going to sell them something else and we're still going to get paid, and you're not going to sell your house and you're going to show it to a few dozen people over the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be really frustrating for you. It's my opinion that Joe has agreed to take your listing at such a high price because he wants to use your home as leverage. What do you mean by that? Again, we're going to go through the dialogue. Well, that means Joe's going to generate a bunch of buyer leads. He's going to take those buyers and sell them something else because your house is overpriced. So it's going to be a win for Joe because he's still going to get some buyer leads and close deals. It's going to be a lose for you because none of your needs are being satisfied. Anyone that tells you they can get $275,000 for your home is using your home as leverage to attract buyers. Both Joe and I know what's going on. I'm just the only one being honest about it. Does that make sense? Remember, honesty is always the best policy in these situations. So how important are these needs to you? Slide that let's get focus sheet back in front of them. You want to get an offer in 30 days and move in 60 days? How important is that to us? It's really important. We need to be in the next city. We need to be in school, whatever it is. Then shouldn't we ensure a win-win relationship to where I'm going to sell your house and you're going to sell your house, and then you're going to realize this goal of being moved to your new city in 60 days? Again, know your walkaway price. If they're still going to be unreasonable and still want to list it way more than you suggested, walk away. No one wins from an overpriced listing except, of course, a couple of buyer leads that you might get from it, if they even buy anything. So they're still going to, again, Joe would list my house above the market. Are you saying that you will not list your home unless I list it in the realm of ridiculous, right? Yes. Okay, great. Here's my suggestion. I want you to sign a 3-month listing contract with Joe. And hold him accountable to his price. Don't drop your price for 3 months. If he says he can get that, then keep it there. When the home doesn't sell, give me a call, and I would be glad to get back out and we can talk about listing your house. Would that be fair? And start packing your stuff up. I'm out of here. I got people that are willing to work with me and take my advice. I'm going to go talk to them now. So really make it, try to amp it up a little bit. Start packing your stuff up and all that. I would love to take a listing. However, I refuse to do it at the expense of your wins. Remember, we're talking about them. It's always about them. It's not me. It's about them. If I list your house above what the market says it'll bear, then that's a lose for you because it's going to be very frustrating. You're going to show your house 50 times and nobody's going to make an offer. Before I leave, let me ask you one more question. Do you really have 3 months to wait? Well, no. We need to have an offer in 30 days. We need to move in 60 days. Okay, so what's your plan B if you don't get an offer in 30 days or 60 days? Crap, well, I guess I need to move to the new city and rent an apartment so I can start my job, and then the kids and my spouse will have to wait back here until the house sells. Well, that's a lot of stuff to work through, right? Shouldn't we leave room for negotiation? That's a good one. We hear that all the time. That's a great question. What's important to you about leaving room for negotiation? So your justification for pricing the home high is to leave room for the buyers wanting to negotiate. Well, guess if you want to leave room for negotiation, guess what you're going to get? Negotiation. If we price the home right, you're not going to get negotiation. Most people are going to pay full price or over if you get multiple offers. Are you willing to negotiate below market price? Well, no. Okay, well then let's not negotiate. Do you think it would be better to position you in a way to generate one offer or multiple offers? Well, that'd be awesome if we had people fighting over the house. It would be great. So may I share with you my philosophy in negotiation? This is just simply a strategy. If we price a home like most agents and leave room for negotiation, the negotiation is what you'll get. because if we are priced like everyone else in the market, high, we may generate one offer, which really weakens our negotiating position. If you only have one offer to work with, then you don't have much. You're not holding many of the cards, right? If you have a lot of offers, then you're holding all the cards. So we're only going to generate one offer, which really weakens our negotiating position. And because of our weakened position, the price typically gets negotiated down or at or below market value. It's been my experience. Again, we're talking about our experience. It's been my experience. If we price the home directly on the market, we create an illusion in the market because so many agents overprice their listings. A home priced directly on the market looks like a great deal, right? Giving us a better chance to generate multiple offers that could drive the final agreed upon price above the list price. Now understand your home will only appear as a deal. We know it's not underpriced because we have used the 7-step pricing strategy to arrive at the proper price entry point. Does that make sense? Just let that hang there for a minute. Let them think about it. So which pricing strategy has a better chance of satisfying your specific needs? So where do you feel we should price your home? Again, overprice it, you might get one offer. We're not really in a good negotiating position. Price it at the market, price it above the other overpriced listings in your neighborhood. It's going to look like an awesome deal. Buyers are going to be clamoring for your house and you're going to get multiple offers. Which one sounds better? Of course they want multiple offers. They want it to go for list price or over. You must eliminate any potential seller remorse. So here's handle it. If you have these conversations up front, there's not going to be an objection later. How would you feel if your home sells tomorrow? Well, I would feel you priced it too low, of course. Well, then let me ask you some questions. How may I ask why you would feel that way? Well, I don't know. I guess I thought homes should take 2 or 3 months to sell. Is your goal to meet your needs within a designated time frame? Yes, I want to have an offer in 30 days. I want to move in 60 days. Great. Okay. Would you agree that pricing your home at the appropriate price entry point increases the odds of getting 1 or more offers within your designated time frame? Well, I suppose so. Yeah, of course. Would you feel your needs were any less satisfied if the offer came in on the first day as opposed to the 60th day? Well, no, I'd rather get a good offer on the first day. Okay, so again, we're handling this objection up front before it happens. That way, when it does happen, they're not mad and think that you underpriced their house. So this is a great one. I love using this sheet. We've had that question before too. Well, will you take a lower commission if you sell it in the first week? Well, would you rather it take 6 months to sell? Because I can do that. Right? So again, just work this out in advance. That way there's no objections and everybody still ends up satisfied. So I guess the point is with all this research we just analyzed ensures us the most appropriate price entry point. Now we really shouldn't care when the right person sees it as long as they see it in your designated time frame, correct? Again, do we care if they see it on the first day or the 60th day? No, we want to sell the house. So if someone's ready, willing, and able to pay $200,000 for your house the first day it's on the market, then we should expect an offer, don't you think? Well, yeah, I guess so. You see, we really can't control when the right person sees it. We can only control if the right person sees it. That's a great one to talk about your marketing exposure. I can't control when the right person sees it. We can just control if they see it. So if the right person sees it on the first day, this in no way means we priced the home too low. It simply validates the fact that we priced it just right. Does that make sense? Again, let them think about it. You need to get really, really good at these dialogues. You need to practice this, because if it sounds like a natural conversation, they're more likely to agree. So again, does that make sense? If you do this right and you're not stumbling over your words, you don't look timid or unsure of yourself, you're gonna get the end result that you want to get out of this listing presentation, or listing conversation, sorry. Commission pressure, will you do it for less? No. That's it. That's an easy one. You can read through this on your own, but yeah, just again, there's some other great ones here. If no, then if they don't agree for the price or the commission that you want, then I would love to take a listing. However, I refuse to do it at the expense of a win-win relationship. Remember, that's going to be a win for you and a lose for me because I'm working for less than what I charge other people for the same services. Therefore, at this point, I must gracefully bow out and hope you understand. If you don't have your own plan, you'll always be part of someone else's. Will you work for less? Well, I guess I could, but if I gave up my money that easily, you wouldn't respect me as a business person. And if you don't respect me as a business person, you darn sure don't want me handling a large financial transaction like this for you, right? After our conversation tonight, do you feel I have the knowledge, skills, and competencies to sell your home? Well, yeah, of course. Do you see a difference in my approach versus the other people you talk to? Well, yeah. Do you see more value in my approach? Yeah, I think so. You really did a good job at explaining everything. Great. Then shouldn't we just move ahead with this? Again, set yourself apart from the typical agent. They're going to pay the commission that you expect. Joe said he would sell my home for less. That's great. You see how easily Joe sacrificed his money? Just think how frugal he's going to be with yours. Is Joe a consultant? Again, that's a good one. Hey, that's awesome. They're willing to give up their money so easily. What are they going to do when they're negotiating and helping you negotiate the price on your house? More of that. Joe said he would list my home for less. Well, I guess Joe knows what he's worth then. Bottom line, after our conversation tonight, do you think you and your investment are in better hands with me or with Joe? You can't ask that question if you're typical. You have to set yourself apart from the typical agent. So the answer is you. Of course, they want to list with you. We want to list it with you, but will you work for less? Remember back at the beginning of our conversation, we talked about the win-win relationship. Go back into that one. That's a win for you and a lose for me because I'm providing the same services I provide everybody else for less money. I can't run my business that way. And again, if they still say no, then great. I would love to take your listing. However, I refuse to do it. In any negotiation, the person willing to walk away usually wins. Whether you're negotiating, whether it's your client negotiating the sale of their house, a buyer negotiating the purchasing a house, or you negotiating your commission with a home seller, you have to be willing to walk away because most people will back down if you walk away. Just always remember that. If they don't back down when you walk away, then you probably didn't want to work with them anyway because the rest of that transaction experience, the rest of that experience with them until you get to the closing table is probably going to be pretty horrible. So remember, be willing to walk away. Know your price. Why should I pay more if Joe wants less? Peace of mind. What do you mean by that? Well, you can be certain that my number one goal is to satisfy these specific needs. Again, point to that sheet that has their needs on it. If I feel there's a need here that I can't satisfy, I won't take the listing. Can Joe say the same thing? Well, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. Did Joe ask you about your specific needs, or did he just assume he knew what your needs were? He didn't ask. Then how can you be assured Joe's priorities is getting your children into this new school on time? Well, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. Did Joe thoroughly discuss each person's role and expectations? Remember my role, your role? No, he did not. You see, Joe and I don't resemble each other at all. All agents aren't the same. So yet you want us to work for the same price, the same fee, right? Bottom line, do you feel that you and your investment are in better hands with me or with Joe? Well, you, because you did a better job. Great. Then shouldn't we just move forward with a win-win relationship from the start? So this is never talk commission rates over the phone. You get a floor call, you get a call from a sign or whatever. What do you charge? That's starting off a conversation in a really, really bad way for you, right? That's an interesting question, given you've yet to meet me and discover what value I provide. Have you had a bad experience with a realtor before? Most people shopping around for price think we're all the same. Everybody that has a real estate license does the same thing. They throw it in the MLS and it sells, right? So who's going to give me the cheapest commission? That's all they care about. I really don't think I should answer that question until you've had a chance to discover the value in working in a relationship with me. So I do, however, appreciate your concern. So here's my suggestion. Let's go ahead and meet. And if at the end of our conversation, I'll let you determine what I'm worth. Does that sound fair? Great. So that at least you get a chance to get in front of them, go through all of this, and then we can agree upon the commission that you deserve to get. We want to sign a 3-month listing agreement. That's price. I'd like to list the home for 6 months, but give you an easy exit clause. If you decide I'm not doing a good job at any time, we can cancel the listing within 48 hours of written notice. Does that sound fair? That's up to you, and talk to your broker about what kind of listing contracts you should sign. And we do 3-month listing contracts here in the office, no problem. Especially in today's market. If you have a listing longer than 3 months, then there's something wrong with the price, or there's something wrong with marketing. Remember, homes sell for 2 reasons: price and exposure. So in the market today, here in summer of 2020, if you're on the market more than 3 months, there's something else going on. And do you really want to keep a listing that's not selling because they're not going to reduce their price, or it was overpriced or whatever? No, cut your losses and move on to the next one, right? Term of listing, we're not going to talk about that. That's something you should talk with your broker about of what their expectation is. Where is your office located? A lot of people still think if they have a house in a certain city that you should have an office in that city, but we need to really talk this through. Hey, that's an interesting question. Why do you ask? Well, my house is in Adrian. Do you have an office in Adrian? Have you visited with anyone who has, in your opinion, a desirable office location? Did they? We're going to talk about all the things what you do that they didn't do. Did they uncover your needs? Did they talk about plans and strategies? Did they thoroughly discuss roles and expectations? Do you see value in these things? Remember, we're going to get them off the topic of where is your office located, because it doesn't matter. In the internet world of marketing, for where we're at now in the real estate market, it doesn't matter if my office is here or 50 miles away. As long as I'm willing to travel to do those things that I need to do to get your house on the market, it doesn't matter where my office is. And we need to try to prove that to them by talking about the other things that we're doing that the typical agent doesn't do. Did they uncover your needs? Did they talk about plans and strategies? Did they thoroughly discuss roles and expectations for yourself and for myself? Okay. I have a friend in the business. This is a big one. We talk about the hobby realtors, right? People that get their license just to sell 2 to 4 to 5 houses a year for their friends and family. That's great. Since this is such a large financial transaction, how about I come in and give you a second opinion? It's always great to get a second opinion, right? No charge, no obligation. I want to come out. Worst case scenario, you'll have another set of eyes and ears on this to help you devise an appropriate plan of action. Doesn't cost you anything. How about a free second opinion? Well, most people would say yes to that because they're not paying you. If that objection comes up at the end of your presentation, I've got a friend in the business. Great, what am I doing here? You've already made up your mind to list with your friends, so why did you have me out today? Is your friend a full-time realtor? That's a big one. How good are you at separating business and friendship? Do you still want to be friends with? How important is it that you're friends with that person when this transaction is over, right? How good is your friend at separating business from friendship? Are they going to be able to remove themselves emotionally from that situation when they talk about price and negotiations with you? Because that could really get pretty convoluted if they think they need to do a good job for you and get you the best price possible, but they're not willing to look at it objectively. How good are they at separating business and friendship? Then we're going to go into, did they uncover your needs? Did they talk about plans and strategies? Did they thoroughly discuss roles and expectations? Do you see value in these things? In the event your friend doesn't meet your expectations, will you be willing to fire them? That's a big one, right? So if you're not going to be willing to fire them, then how can you hold them accountable? Experience objection. How many homes have you sold? If you sold a lot of homes, that's an easy one. You just tell them. If you're pretty new to the business, then that's a great question. Before I answer that, I may ask you, why is that important to you? Well, the more experience you have, the better, right? So especially for new agents, just try to lean on your brokerage. Especially with Remax, if you're with a franchise like Remax or Remax, just lean on that. I work for the largest real estate company in the world. My broker is very attentive to my day-to-day operations of my business. So, I'm in my first year in the business, but I have such a great support system that it really shouldn't be a concern to you. Okay, experience. Never say no until you know what you're saying no to. That's a good thing. Any objection, question, or concern that happens during the solicitation can be overcome by the following dialogue. Hey, let's have a conversation. If at the end of our conversation you see you still, I won't list your home. However, by meeting with me, you may find you can get all you want and more. We won't know, though, until we've had a conversation. We're just trying to get in front of people, trying to get that listing conversation happening. So this would be like over a phone solicitation. You're calling an expired, or it's a floor call, whatever it is. If at the end of our conversation you still feel it's not a good time to sell, then we'll part ways and we'll catch up later, whatever it is. If at the end of our conversation you still feel all realtors are crooks, well, okay, we'll just part ways and shake hands and see you later. If at the end of our conversation you still feel you need to go for sale by owner, etc. That's it. Thanks for watching today. We're almost exactly on 1 hour. Watch the replay. Tag a friend. Share it with people that you think might find this interesting. If you don't want to share it on their page, you can share it in Messenger to them. We want to be on the down low if they're thinking about leaving their current company, right? So we don't want to call anybody out. Please check out the Vimeo channel. And again, share this page with people that you think would find value in it. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm not sure which class we're going to do yet, but keep an eye out for the event, and I will post it here. I will talk to you all later, and you have a great upcoming weekend. get out there and sell some homes, get out there and list some homes. Okay.